Welcome to my new series on the top 10 thingies of Final Fantasy XIV. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Scars of Calamity. Number 10, taking a look at Eastern Fanland. This one in particular is really cool because you can see it from every single zone in the region of Fanland, which makes it for a quite impressive sight, especially when a new player sees it. Going straight out into central Fanland for the first time, and you see this massive crystalline structure in the distance. Another cool part that I really like about this one is how much the land has been distorted in the vertical directions, which we don't see a lot of in early Final Fantasy areas. We get this huge verticality where you're going up and down for all these areas. And here we can see a fragment of Dalamud is actually struck down in here, which not all the Calamity scars feature this as prominently as this one. Another really cool part about this one is the flora here has been crystallized from the etherical reaction that occurred when Bahamut struck this location, which we actually don't see occur in other areas. Moving on to the next, we're heading over to North Shroud, where we can see another massive fragment of Dalamudus crash down. This one has scorched the entire land, leaving no flora at all in contrast to the one we see in Eastern Fanland. The body of water that runs through this place, we get this really cool contrast between the life and the death of the Calamity. And in between all this, we get this really cool settlement of Faldgord's Float. Here we get what feels like a scene straight out of the cinematic, with this giant meteor crashing down. This one in particular has some really funny stuff, which I wanted to highlight. Originally, Final Fantasy XIV did not have flying in the first three major zones being Vanland, the Black Shroud, and Noscea. Because of this, we get this funny forced perspective with this long path here, where you're not actually supposed to go down here, but because you can, with flying now introduced, we get some funny mini dioramas that we can approach a lot closer. Heading on over to lower Noscea, we're going to the Salt Strand. This one in particular seems like you might think Bahamut struck it, but this is actually a part of Dalamud's outer shell that fell into the Rano Sea, releasing a massive amount of concentrated ether, pushing all this water up into the air and immediately crystallizing it. I find this one particularly interesting because we get this cool contrast of the explosive ether from Dalamud in the center with all this salt water getting crystallized instantly around it. Heading over to Northern Fanland, we get what seems like almost nothing, really. In reality, it shows a really cool concept for just how massive Calamity Bahamut was. These are called Dalamud's Talons. And I love the implication that implies at some point Dalamud actually touched down on the ground briefly as he was passing by. His claws ripping through the ground. Shows how terrifying this Calamity was. Here over in Mor Dhona, we can see just how devastating this instant amount of ether being dispersed can be. The entire zone itself has been completely crystallized. Here heading over to the singing shard, we'd see how much lightning aspected ether has been concentrated in this location. This place makes for a very beautiful final zone for a Realm Reborn. It feels very in-game area like we see later with Ultimate Fool. It's an area with a lot of landmarks that it really makes you want to explore, with the Keeper of the Lake and the Crystal Tower in the distance. Heading over to Western Noscea, we get one of my favorite locations, the Pharos Sirius Lighthouse. Not only is this one just an amazing sight to see when you enter this location, but you actually go inside this as a dungeon. Inside here, we can see all the corrupted enemies that have been infused with the ether. Even the lighthouse itself inside is still crumbling away, implying that one day this lighthouse will completely collapse. All the machinery is actually still powered. And here as we go higher up the lighthouse, we can actually see where this explosion pierced through the tower and the ether instantly crystallized. Heading over to Cawerfa's Western Highlands, we're going to check out the Dreaming Dragon. This one is a little different than the previous ones, and that the dragon itself was actually not put here due to the Calamity. This dragon here has actually been put to sleep with magics by the Holy See. And then when the Calamity occurred, the dragon itself ended up being completely encased in ice. From some of the descriptions, it's implied that the dragon's kind of already dead, as its tail is actually rotting as the ice melts away, attracting monsters to it. I love that we get these layers. Make it so you're not exactly sure what happened to this dragon until you read further into it. Now we're going all the way over to the first to check out the Flood of the First. This is one of the few parts of the Flood that actually remains on the maps once you have beaten the storyline. It's really cool seeing this massive wave of light drowning over the entire location. Even as we go closer in, we can still see parts of the Flood falling off and breaking away. At number 1, we have one of my favorite locations showing just how crazy the calamities can really be. Heading all the way over to Locks, we're going to see the devastation of the floods from the 5th Astral Era Calamity. As you enter this area, you see all these salt fields, and it seems like there's nothing really going on here. But as you further explore the area, the story ends up bringing you underwater. And as we go to the side lake, we see this giant water-aspected cave system. One of the very few rare times we see water-aspected crystals. This entire cave system links up underneath the lake. As we go farther underneath the water, we end up approaching the ruins of Scala just to see how devastating the flood of the 5th Astral Era actually was. Thanks for watching this video on the top 10 thingies of Final Fantasy XIV. This is the first in the series, so I have some other videos up that you can watch. Expect more of these.